right, let's talk about negotiation. We're going to dive into the super high-stakes world of it with a guide who treated every negotiation like a life or death situation. Because, well, it usually was. We're breaking down the incredible techniques from Chris Voss, a former lead hostage negotiator for the FBI. So, let's start with something you've probably dealt with. Picture this. You're getting ready to go out. You think your black shoes are perfect. Your partner is absolutely convinced the brown shoes are the only option. Now, we've all been taught to find that win-win compromise, right? So what on earth does that look like here? The logical win-win solution? You wear one black shoe, one brown shoe. I mean, it's a perfect 50-50 split, right? And it is completely, utterly ridiculous. This is exactly why Chris Voss says that splitting the difference is almost always the worst possible answer. It just creates a solution that makes nobody happy. And here's the big idea. Voss's whole philosophy is about getting away from this idea of my way versus your way. The goal isn't to meet in the middle, it's to work together. It's about finding some third, better option that neither of you even thought of at the beginning. Okay, so that brings us to our first huge lesson. And you know what? It sounds almost too simple. Listen to understand. A real negotiation doesn't begin when you start talking or making your points. No, it starts with you shutting up and just listening intensely. What's so amazing about this is how it completely flips our priorities. We go into a negotiation thinking it's all about that third point, getting what we want. But what Voss figured out is that deep down, what every single person needs first is to feel understood and to feel respected. If you skip those first two steps, you're almost never going to get to the third. And that leads right into our second lesson, which is a total shift in how you think about this stuff. You have to stop seeing negotiation as a fight. It's not a battle. It's an information-gathering mission. It's an act of discovery. And this just lays it out perfectly. The old way, the battle mindset, is all about winning the argument, about proving you're right. But the Voss way, the discovery mindset, is about uncovering information. Your goal isn't to beat the person across the table. It's to figure out what they really need. Is it money? Is it security? Is it just about respect? That's what you have to find out. So how do you actually start discovering this stuff? Well, one of the simplest, most powerful tools is something called mirroring. All you do is repeat the last few words they just said, or the most important ones, back to them, but kind of like a question. So imagine you're negotiating a salary, and you hear this. Your gut reaction is probably to jump in with why that's not possible, but instead, you try a mirror. You just calmly repeat back, more money? I know, it feels way too simple to work, but it is like magic. It makes the other person pause, and then they start to explain why they want more money. They reveal their motivations, their needs. They basically start negotiating with themselves out loud for you. Now, our third lesson builds right on top of this discovery idea. It's called tactical empathy. And let's be clear, this is not about agreeing with them. It's not even about liking them. It's about understanding their perspective and their feelings so you can figure out what's driving their behavior. And the main tool you use for this is called labeling. You just spot the emotion behind what they're saying and then say it out loud for them. And you use these simple little phrases, it seems like, or it sounds like. So, for example, if you're dealing with a really passionate teacher, you could just say, it seems like you care a lot about your students. Instantly, that validates them. It shows them you're paying attention, and it builds a connection. When people feel like you get them, they are so much more willing to work with you. Okay, now here's a real pro move with labeling. It's about calling out the negatives before they do. You basically think about all the bad stuff they're probably thinking about you or the situation, and you say it first. I know it sounds nuts, right, to just say the worst thing they're thinking out loud. But what it does is it completely takes the sting out of it. You take the weapon right out of their hands. They feel so deeply heard that you can both stop focusing on the problem and start looking for a solution. All right, this next lesson is going to fly in the face of everything you've ever learned about persuasion. We're always taught to push for a yes. Voss says, nope, you should actually be looking for a no. Just look at this comparison. Can we talk for 5 minutes? It immediately puts pressure on someone. It feels like a trap. But if you just flip the question to, is it a bad time to talk? That invites a no. And saying no makes people feel safe. It gives them a sense of control. No isn't an obstacle, it's a feeling of protection. And when people feel safe, they're much more likely to open up. So if yes isn't the goal, then what is? The real breakthrough, the moment a negotiation truly turns in your favor, all comes down to hearing two very specific little words. That's right. When you hear that, it's a huge moment. It's an epiphany for them. It means you've summed up their position and their feelings so perfectly that they feel completely and totally understood. That's the green light. That's when you can actually start talking about a solution.
But, and this is a massive warning, do not confuse "that's right" with "you're right." They sound similar, but they mean the exact opposite. "You're right" is what people say when they want you to shut up and leave them alone. It's a dead end. "That's right" means "I agree." "You're right" just means "go away."
So as we wrap this up, let's just come back to that one core idea. The skills of a top FBI negotiator aren't about being tough or manipulating people. They're about completely changing your mindset from a battle you have to win to a journey of discovery. So the only question is, in your next negotiation, are you going to fight or are you going to discover?